The rain started at 11:47 p.m. Nadia's windshield wipers scraped against the glass, the rubber edge peeling back on the driver's side. She'd meant to replace them 3 weeks ago. The receipt was still in her glove compartment, crumpled beside expired insurance cards and a flashlight with dead batteries. Her headlights carved a narrow path through the downpour. Route 9 stretched empty ahead, no street lamps for another 6 miles. The dashboard clock flickered. The gas needle hovered just above the red line. She pressed harder on the accelerator. The clinic had kept her late again. Mrs. Patterson's labs had come back wrong, and Nadia had stayed to make the calls, to schedule the follow-up, to sit with the woman while she cried in the parking lot. That was 3 hours ago. Now the road blurred and her eyes burned and the wipers shrieked with every pass. Something moved at the edge of her headlights. She hit the brakes. The car fishtailed, her hands locked on the wheel. The tires caught, held, and she came to a stop 20 feet past whatever she'd seen. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She looked in the rearview mirror. Rain streaked across the back window. Through it, a shape lay crumpled against the guardrail. Nadia sat there for 4 seconds. Her foot hovered over the gas pedal. She could keep driving. She could call 911 and let someone else handle it. She could pretend she hadn't seen anything at all. Then she put the car in reverse. The headlights illuminated him in pieces. A man's dress shoe, soaked through, the leather warped and stained. Dark pants, torn at the knee, fabric shredded. A white shirt gone pink with diluted blood, plastered to his chest. One arm extended across the gravel, fingers curled. A face turned away from the light. Nadia left the engine running. She stepped out into the rain. It hit her shoulders, her neck, ran down the collar of her scrubs. She was still wearing them. She'd forgotten to change. The man didn't move. She approached slowly, her shoes sinking into the mud at the road's edge. Lightning flashed somewhere distant, illuminating the trees in stark white before plunging everything back into darkness. In that brief light, she saw the wound. His side. Below the ribs. A dark stain spreading through the fabric, mixing with rain and dirt. "Hey." No response. She crouched beside him, pressed 2 fingers to his neck. The pulse came back faint but steady, threading beneath her fingertips. "Can you hear me?" His eyes opened. They found her face and stayed there. Dark eyes, focused despite everything. His lips moved, but no sound came out. "Don't try to talk." She was already assessing. Entry wound, no exit she could see. He'd lost blood, but how much was hard to tell in the rain. "I'm a nurse. I'm going to help you." His hand caught her wrist. The grip was weak but deliberate. He shook his head once. "No hospital. You've been shot." "No hospital." She stared at him. Rain ran down her face, into her eyes. She blinked it away. "You'll die." "No." His fingers tightened. "Hospital." His hand fell away. His eyes closed. She sat in her car for 90 seconds. The man lay outside, unconscious now, bleeding into the mud. Her phone was in her pocket. She could call 911. She should call 911. That was the correct thing to do. That was what anyone would do. Her thumb hovered over the screen. She thought about the wound, the location, the caliber, probably, based on what she'd felt when she'd pressed her hand against it. She thought about the suit he was wearing, expensive, even ruined, the stitching precise, the cut tailored. She thought about his eyes when he'd said it. No hospital. People said things when they were hurt. People said things they didn't mean. But he'd meant it. Nadia put her phone back in her pocket. Getting him into the car took everything she had. He was tall, over 6 feet, and dead weight. She dragged him by the arms, her back screaming, her feet slipping in the mud. The rain didn't let up. By the time she got him to the passenger door, she was soaked through and shaking. She braced him against the car, opened the door, maneuvered his body into the seat, one limb at a time, fighting gravity and exhaustion with every movement. His head lolled against the headrest. Blood smeared across the leather. She ran back to where she'd found him. His phone lay in the mud, shattered screen, dark. She picked it up anyway, felt the weight of it, the cracked glass cutting into her palm, looked around for anything else, found nothing but tire marks in the soft earth, already filling with rain. Back in the car, she cranked the heat. His breathing was shallow. His skin had gone gray under the dome light. Nadia pulled onto the road and drove. Her house sat at the end of a gravel driveway, half a mile off the main road. A two-bedroom cottage her grandmother had left her, white paint peeling, porch sagging on one side. She'd lived here for 3 years. In that time, she'd had exactly 4 visitors. She pulled up to the front door and killed the engine. The rain had slowed to a drizzle. She got out, circled to the passenger side, and opened the door. The man slumped toward her. She caught him, barely, her arms straining under his weight. "Come on." She pulled his arm across her shoulders. "Help me out here." He made a sound, something between a grunt and a groan. "That's it. One step." They made it to the porch, her feet catching on the uneven boards. Then through the front door, into the darkness of the hallway. Then down to the spare bedroom where she'd stored boxes she'd never unpacked and a bed she'd never made. She lowered him onto the mattress. He didn't open his eyes. The wound was worse than she'd thought. Nadia had supplies. Not much, but enough. She'd taken things home from the clinic over the years. Suture kits, gauze, antiseptic, a bag of saline she'd meant to return. She spread them out on the bed beside him and cut away his shirt with kitchen scissors. The bullet had entered below his ribs on the right side. No exit wound. That meant it was still inside. She couldn't remove it. She didn't have the tools, the training, the sterile environment. If she tried, she'd kill him. She could stop the bleeding. She could clean the wound. She could keep him alive until morning, maybe. She worked for 2 hours. Her hands stayed steady. They always did. That was the thing about crisis. Her body knew what to do even when her mind screamed at her to stop, to think, to reconsider. She irrigated the wound with saline, watching the pink water run clear. Packed it with gauze, layer after careful layer. Wrapped his torso in bandages she'd never be able to explain if the clinic did inventory. At 3:14 a.m., she stepped back. He was still breathing. His color looked better under the lamplight. The bleeding had slowed to a seep. She stood there in her ruined scrubs, covered in his blood, and watched his chest rise and fall. Then she walked to the bathroom and threw up. She didn't sleep. She sat in the chair beside the bed and watched him. Every hour she checked his pulse, his breathing, the bandages. Every hour he stayed the same, alive, barely, balanced on a knife's edge. At some point she went through his pockets. No wallet, no ID. Nothing but a set of keys, car keys, expensive with a logo she didn't recognize, and a folded piece of paper, soft with wear. She opened it. An address, handwritten. Numbers and a street name in a city 4 hours north. Nothing else. She folded it back up and put it in his pocket. Outside, the rain stopped. The sky began to lighten, gray giving way to silver. She sat in the chair and waited. Dawn came gray and quiet. Nadia stood at the kitchen window with a cup of coffee she wasn't drinking. Outside, mist rose from the wet grass, curling through the trees. Birds started up, tentative at first, then building. Everything looked the same as it had yesterday. Everything was different. She heard him before she saw him. A sound from the bedroom. Movement. Sheets rustling. She set down the cup and walked back. He was awake. He'd pushed himself up on one elbow, which was a mistake. His face had gone white with the effort, sweat beading at his hairline. His jaw clenched against the pain. "Don't move." He looked at her. Those same dark eyes, clearer now. "Where am I?" "My house." "Where?" "About 40 miles east of where I found you." He processed this. His jaw tightened further. "How long?" 6 hours, maybe 7. He tried to sit up further. She crossed the room in 3 steps and pushed him back down, her hand firm on his shoulder. "Stop. You'll tear the stitches." He looked at his side, at the bandages wrapped around his torso, the gauze already showing pink, then back at her. "You did this? I'm a nurse. I told you no hospital. This isn't a hospital." He stared at her. Something shifted in his expression. She couldn't name it, wouldn't try. After a moment, he let his head fall back against the pillow. "The bullet's still inside," she said. "You need surgery, real surgery, in a real operating room. You'll die without it." "How long do I have?" "I don't know. A day, maybe 2. Depends on infection, internal bleeding, a dozen things I can't check for here." He closed his eyes. "Then I have 2 days." She made soup. It was all she had, a can of chicken noodle from the back of the pantry, expired by 6 months but still sealed. She heated it on the stove while he slept, the smell filling the small kitchen, then woke him to eat. He managed half the bowl, his hands unsteady on the spoon. "I need to know your name," she said. He set down the spoon. "Why?" "Because you're in my house, bleeding on my sheets. Because I broke about 15 laws last night, and if you die here, I need to know who I'm burying." A pause. "Marcus." "Marcus what?" "Just Marcus." She waited. He didn't continue. "Fine." She took the bowl from his hands. "I'm Nadia." "I know." She froze. "How?" He nodded toward the hallway. "Your mail's on the table by the door. Nadia Chen. You work at the Ridgewood Family Clinic. You drive a 2019 Honda Civic with 87,000 miles on it. You live alone." Her grip tightened on the bowl. "You went through my things?" "I read what was visible. From here. That's not... I notice things." His voice was flat, tired. "It's what I do." She stood there, the bowl growing cold in her hands. He watched her with those dark eyes, and she felt suddenly like she was the one being examined, like every choice she'd made in the last 12 hours was being weighed and measured. "Who shot you, Marcus?" He didn't answer. "Was it random? Were you robbed?" "No." "Then what?" "You don't want to know." "I'm pretty sure I do." He shifted on the bed, winced. "The people who shot me are going to look for me. They're probably looking right now. If they find me here, they'll kill you too. That's what you want to know?" The words landed heavy in the quiet room. Nadia set down the bowl. "I'm going to ask you one more time, and I need you to tell me the truth. Because if you lie to me, I'm calling the police right now, and you can explain this to them." She met his eyes. "Who are you?" He told her. Not everything. She could tell he was leaving things out, names, details, the parts that would make it real. But he told her enough. He ran a company, a large one. The headquarters were in the city, 4 hours north. He'd built it from nothing over 20 years, and now it controlled interests in shipping, real estate, technology. Thousands of employees. Billions in assets. 6 months ago, someone had tried to buy him out. He'd refused. 3 months ago, the offers had turned to threats. Phone calls at odd hours, cars following his driver. A fire at one of his warehouses, ruled accidental, but he'd known better. Last night, he'd been driving home from a meeting when a car had forced him off the road. 2 men had pulled him out. One had put a gun to his head. The other had shot him in the side. He'd fought back. He didn't say how, but she saw his knuckles, bruised and split, the skin torn over the bone. He'd gotten away. He'd driven until the blood loss made him stop. Then he'd crawled to the guardrail and waited to die. "Why not the hospital?" she asked. "Because they have people everywhere. Police, hospitals, emergency services. If I show up in any system, they'll know within the hour. They'll send someone to finish it." That sounds paranoid. My head of security disappeared 2 weeks ago. My personal assistant was found dead in her apartment. Car accident, they said. She didn't drive. He paused. This isn't paranoia. This is Tuesday. Nadia sat back in her chair. The morning light had grown stronger, falling through the window in pale bars. Outside, she could hear a dog barking somewhere distant. The sound seemed to come from another world. What do you want me to do? Nothing. I need to make contact with someone I trust. If I can do that, I can get out of here without putting you at risk. And if you can't? He didn't answer. She went to work. She couldn't not go. 3 days without calling in would trigger questions. Someone would come by to check on her. And if they found a bleeding stranger in her spare room, she'd have more problems than she could handle. So she showered, changed into clean scrubs, and drove to the clinic. The day passed in a blur. She took vitals, her mind elsewhere. She filed charts, her hands moving automatically. She smiled at patients and answered phones and pretended everything was normal. At lunch, she sat in her car and stared at the steering wheel. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Just 2 words. Still alive. She deleted it. The drive home took 40 minutes. She stopped at the gas station on Route 9, filled her tank, bought a prepaid phone and 3 burner SIM cards. The clerk didn't look up. She paid in cash. Outside, the sun was setting. Orange light spread across the sky, bleeding into purple at the edges. She watched it for a moment, then got back in her car. Her hands were shaking. She gripped the wheel and drove. When she got home, he was standing. She found him in the kitchen, one hand braced against the counter, the other pressed to his side. He'd found the coffee. A half-empty cup sat beside him, steam still rising. "What are you doing?" "Testing my limits." "Your limit is bed. Sit down." He didn't move. "I need to make a call." "Your phone is destroyed." "I know. I need to use yours." She hesitated. He saw it. "I'm not calling anyone who can trace this back to you. I have a number memorized, a private line. 1 call, 30 seconds, and then I'll dispose of the phone." "Dispose of it how?" "However you want. Burn it. Throw it in a lake. It won't matter after the call." She pulled the burner from her pocket, held it up. "Use this." Something shifted in his face. Not surprise, recognition maybe. He took the phone. "You're prepared." "I'm learning." He dialed from memory. 11 digits. The phone rang twice. "It's me." His voice changed when he spoke, harder, more clipped, the voice of someone accustomed to giving orders. "No names." "Backup Protocol 7. The asset is mobile but compromised. Location is rural, 40 miles east of primary incident. I need extraction within 36 hours. Confirm." A pause. Someone speaking on the other end. "Understood. Out." He ended the call, removed the SIM card, snapped it in half. "That's it?" "That's it. And now?" "Now we wait." The fever started that night. She'd expected it. Infection was inevitable. The wound had been exposed to mud, rain, her unsterile kitchen. She'd done what she could, but it wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. By midnight, his temperature hit 103. She sat beside him with a bowl of cool water and a cloth. She wiped his forehead, his neck, his chest, watching the water bead on his skin. He drifted in and out of consciousness, muttering things she couldn't understand. Names, maybe, numbers, words in a language she didn't recognize. At 2 a.m., he grabbed her arm. His grip was strong, too strong for how sick he was. His eyes were open but unfocused, looking at something she couldn't see. "Don't let them take it." "Take what?" "Everything. Don't let them—" He broke off, coughing. Blood flecked his lips. She felt cold. "Marcus. Marcus. Stay with me." His eyes found hers. For a moment he was present, lucid. "I'm sorry," he said. Then he was gone again, falling back into the fever, and she was alone with his dying. Morning came slow. Nadia hadn't slept. She'd stayed in the chair, watching his breathing. counting the seconds between each rise of his chest. Around 5 a.m., the fever broke. His temperature dropped to 101, then 100. By dawn, he was sleeping normally, his face relaxed, his breathing steady. She went to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror, dark circles under her eyes, deep as bruises, blood on her collar, his blood. She hadn't changed. Her hands shook when she held them up. She ran the water and washed her face. When she came back, he was awake. "You stayed?" "Yes." "All night?" "Yes." He looked at her for a long moment. She couldn't read his expression. She didn't try. "The extraction," she said. 36 hours. That was last night. 31 hours now, give or take. And then you'll leave. And then I'll leave. She nodded. Something loosened in her chest. Something else tightened. "I'm going to make breakfast." She made eggs. He ate them slowly, sitting up in bed, his back against the headboard. Color had returned to his face. He still looked like death, but death with a fighting chance. "You said you built your company from nothing." He glanced at her. "I said that, yes. 20 years. That's a long time." "It is. And now someone wants to take it from you." "Someone's been trying to take it from me for 20 years. This is just the first time they've tried bullets." She set down her fork. "Who? Does it matter? I'd like to know who might show up at my door." He considered this. Then, "His name is Alexander Vance. We started out together a long time ago. Same business school, same ambitions. He went one direction, I went another. He's spent the last decade trying to destroy everything I've built. Why? Because I have what he wants, and because I refuse to give it to him. That's not an answer. No, it isn't." He finished his eggs, set the plate aside. When he looked at her again, there was something different in his eyes. Warmer, maybe, or just more tired. "You saved my life." "I know. Anyone else would have called the police." She didn't respond. "Why didn't you?" The question hung between them. She'd asked herself the same thing 100 times in the last day. She still didn't have an answer that made sense. "I don't know." "Yes, you do." She looked at him. His dark eyes steady on hers, the bandages wrapped around his torso, the blood still crusted in his hair. "My mother was a refugee," she said. "She came here with nothing. No money, no papers, no one to help her. A stranger took her in, gave her a place to stay until she could find her feet. She never forgot it. And she told you this story every year on my birthday, until she died." He didn't say anything. "It's not complicated," Nadia said. "Someone needed help. I helped. That's it. That's not it. It's all I've got." The day passed slowly. She didn't go to work. She called in sick, first time in 3 years, and spent the hours cleaning, cooking, changing his bandages. He slept most of the time. When he was awake, they talked. Small things, the weather, the house, the books on her shelves that she'd never finished reading. He didn't ask about her life. She didn't volunteer. Around noon, a car drove past on the main road. Nadia froze at the window, watched it go by. A blue sedan moving fast, not slowing down. Just a car, just someone passing through. She stood there for 10 minutes anyway, her eyes fixed on the empty road. Late afternoon. The light had gone gold, slanting through the windows, catching dust motes in the air. Marcus was sitting up in bed, reading a book he'd found on her shelf. An old paperback, pages yellowed, spine cracked. "Crime and Punishment," he said. "Interesting choice." "I never finished it." "Neither did I." She was changing his bandages. The wound looked better, less red, less angry. She packed it with fresh gauze and wrapped it carefully. "You're going to have a scar. I have others." She looked at him. He wasn't bragging. He was stating a fact. From what? From life. The extraction. She was in the kitchen, making lunch. He'd gotten up again, against her protests, and was sitting at the table. How does it work? Someone will come. A car, probably. They'll take me to a private airfield and fly me somewhere safe. Where? I don't know yet. Somewhere they can't find me. And then what? Then I figure out how to fight back. She set a sandwich in front of him. Turkey and cheese, the bread slightly stale. You're just going to disappear? For a while? What about your company? Your employees? I have people in place. They'll keep things running. And if Vance takes over while you're gone? He picked up the sandwich, took a bite, chewed, swallowed. Then I'll take it back. Night fell. They sat in the living room, the lights off, only the glow from the kitchen spilling through the doorway. She'd found a bottle of wine at the back of a cabinet, a gift from someone years ago, and they'd split it between two glasses. You're not afraid, he said. I'm terrified. You don't act like it. I've had practice. He looked at her over the rim of his glass. What do you mean? My husband left when I was 28. Walked out one morning and never came back. I found out later he'd been stealing from me for years. Bank accounts, credit cards, even my grandmother's jewelry. By the time I figured it out, I had nothing. What did you do? I moved here. Got a job at the clinic. Started over. Alone. He was quiet for a moment. Then, that takes courage. That takes desperation. Courage comes later. Around 10 p.m., headlights appeared on the main road. Nadia was at the window before she realized she'd moved. She watched the car approach, slowing as it neared her driveway. It kept going. She let out a breath. Behind her, Marcus was on his feet, his hand braced against the wall. False alarm. I know. You should sleep. So should you. Neither of them moved. She woke to the sound of engines. It was 3 a.m. She'd fallen asleep in the chair again, the wine glass empty on the floor beside her. Marcus was in the bedroom. The house was dark. Outside, headlights swept across the windows. She was on her feet before she knew she was moving, crossed to the window, peered through the curtain. A car had stopped at the end of the driveway. Black, no markings. The engine was still running, exhaust curling up into the night air. Another car pulled up beside it. Her heart stopped. She ran to the bedroom. Marcus. He was already awake, already moving. He'd heard it too. How many? 2 cars. I couldn't see inside. He swung his legs off the bed, grimaced. His hand went to his side. Is there another way out? The back door, through the kitchen. Go, now. She hesitated. What about you? I'll slow you down. Go. I'm not leaving you. Nadia, shut up and move. They went out the back. The rain had started again, lighter than before, but enough to mask their footsteps. She had his arm over her shoulders, half carrying him across the wet grass. Every step was agony. She could feel it in the way his body tensed, the way his breath caught in his throat. Behind them, car doors opened. Voices. Men's voices. Low and purposeful. She pulled him toward the tree line. There's a trail, she whispered. It leads to the highway, half a mile. I can't. You can. Move. The trees closed around them. She couldn't see anything. The darkness was total. The rain blocking out the stars. The clouds blocking out the moon. She moved by memory, by the feel of the ground under her feet, roots and rocks and mud. Behind them, flashlight beams cut through the trees. They were following. Faster. I'm trying. His weight grew heavier. His steps grew slower. She could feel him fading, the fight going out of him. Don't you dare. Nadia, I said don't. She pulled him forward. One step, another. The flashlights were getting closer. The trail curved left. She took it without thinking, muscle memory guiding her through the dark. Her feet found solid ground, then slipped, then found it again. Marcus stumbled. She caught him, pulled him upright, kept moving. The flashlights were 20 yards behind now. She could hear voices, muffled by rain, getting louder. Here. She pulled him off the trail into a thicket of brush, lowered him to the ground, pressed her hand over his mouth. They lay there in the mud, in the rain, as the flashlight swept past. Footsteps. 2 men, maybe 3. Moving fast, not looking down. They passed within 10 feet. Kept going. Nadia waited. 1 minute. 2. The footsteps faded. She lifted her hand from Marcus's mouth. Can you move? Yes. She didn't believe him. She helped him up anyway. They reached the highway. It stretched empty in both directions, slick with rain, no cars in sight. Nadia pulled Marcus to the shoulder and looked back. The flashlights had stopped, still in the trees, maybe 50 yards away. Waiting. They won't come out, Marcus said. His voice was barely a whisper. Too exposed. Then we wait too. No, you go. Flag down a car. Get help. I told you. I know what you told me. He grabbed her arm. His grip was weak, but his eyes were fierce. This isn't your fight. You've done enough. More than enough. Go. She looked at him. At the blood seeping through his bandages, the sweat on his face, the way his hand trembled against her arm. No. Nadia. I said no. Headlights appeared in the distance. The car was a pickup truck, rusted and old. The driver was a man in his 60s, a farmer by the look of him, heading to the early market. He slowed when he saw them. Nadia stepped into the road. Please, we need help. The farmer looked at her, then at Marcus, slumped against the guardrail, barely standing, then back at her. What happened to him? Car accident. He's hurt. Please. A long pause. Then the farmer reached over and opened the passenger door. Get in. The pickup truck smelled of fertilizer and tobacco. Nadia sat pressed against Marcus in the cab, his weight heavy against her shoulder. The farmer drove without speaking, his eyes fixed on the road. Rain drummed on the roof. Where you headed? Nadia hesitated. South. As far as you can take us. Got a delivery in Millbrook. 15 miles. That's fine. The farmer glanced at her, then at Marcus, whose head had fallen against the window, leaving a smear of condensation. He needs a hospital. He doesn't want one. What he wants and what he needs aren't the same thing. I know. The farmer was quiet for a moment. I was in the army. Long time ago. Saw men refuse treatment plenty of times. Sometimes they had their reasons, sometimes they didn't. He has his reasons. I'm sure he does. They drove in silence for another 5 miles. The rain lightened, then stopped. The sky began to turn gray at the edges. There's a motel, the farmer said. Edge of town. Owner's a friend. He won't ask questions. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. The motel was 15 miles south. The farmer dropped them off without asking questions. Nadia gave him all the cash she had, $37, and he drove away without a word, his taillights disappearing into the rain. The room was $62 a night. She put it on the credit card she'd sworn she'd never use again. Marcus collapsed on the bed. She checked his wound. The bandages had soaked through, pink and wet. The stitches had torn. I need supplies. There's a pharmacy down the street. I saw it. Go, I'll be here. She looked at him. He looked back. Neither of them said what they were both thinking. She went. The walk to the pharmacy took 10 minutes. She moved quickly, keeping her head down, avoiding eye contact with the few people on the street. A man in a pickup truck. A woman walking a dog. A teenager on a bicycle. None of them looked at her twice. The pharmacy was on the corner, a small building with faded signage and a bell above the door. She pushed through and felt the air conditioning hit her face, cold and sharp. The pharmacy was fluorescent lit and empty. She grabbed what she needed: gauze, tape, antiseptic, painkillers. At the register, a teenage girl with headphones around her neck rang her up without looking at the items. Outside, dawn was breaking. Nadia stood in the parking lot and watched the sun rise. Orange and pink and gold spreading across the sky. Beautiful. Indifferent. Her phone buzzed. The second burner. She'd bought 3, kept 1 for herself. She looked at the screen. They found the motel 2 miles out. Move now. She ran. Back to the room, through the door. Marcus was already up, already moving. How did they find us? They're tracking something. My car, maybe. Or your clothes. He stripped off his shirt, threw it in the corner. She handed him a clean one from her bag. Back door? Service exit, down the hall. They moved. The parking lot behind the motel was empty. They crossed it at a half-run, Nadia supporting Marcus, both of them breathing hard. At the edge of the lot, a chain-link fence separated them from a storage facility. She found a gap. They squeezed through. Behind them, cars pulled into the motel lot. The storage facility was a maze of units, numbered and locked. They ducked behind a row of them and waited. Voices carried from the motel, shouting, doors banging. They'll search the area, Marcus said. I know. We need transportation. I know. She looked around. Rows of storage units. A main office, locked and dark. A single car parked near the entrance. A maintenance vehicle, keys probably inside. Stay here. Nadia. But she was already moving. The car was unlocked. No keys in the ignition. She checked the visor, the console, the glove compartment. Nothing. She looked back toward the storage units. Marcus had slumped against the wall, barely visible in the early light. Think. She popped the panel under the steering column. Wires. She'd done this once before, years ago, when her husband had locked the keys in the car. A trick her father had taught her, half joking. Never thinking she'd need it. 2 wires. Touch them together. The engine turned over. They drove north, away from the motel, away from the search, away from everything Nadia had known for the last 3 years. The sun climbed higher. The highway stretched ahead. The stolen car was old and rattled at anything above 60. She kept it at 55, blending with traffic, checking the mirrors every few seconds. Marcus was unconscious again. His breathing had gone shallow, each inhale a struggle. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool air from the vents. She reached over and pressed her hand to his forehead. Hot. Too hot. The fever was coming back. She kept driving. At a gas station 40 miles north, she stopped. Marcus was still unconscious. She left him in the car, locked the doors, and went inside. The bathroom was small and dirty. She splashed water on her face, looked at herself in the mirror. She barely recognized the woman staring back. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair tangled and unwashed, mud on her collar, blood on her sleeve. She looked like someone who'd been running for her life. She was. She bought bottled water and protein bars and a map of the state. The clerk barely glanced at her. She paid in cash and walked back to the car. Marcus was awake. His eyes found hers through the windshield. He didn't move, didn't wave, just watched her approach. She got in the car. How do you feel? Like I'm dying. You're not dying. You don't know that. She started the engine, pulled out of the parking lot. Where are we going? North. Where north? I don't know yet. He was quiet for a moment, then, there's a clinic. At noon, her phone buzzed. Extraction compromised. New coordinates incoming. Stand by. She pulled over at a rest stop. Checked his pulse. Weak, but there. Changed his bandages with the supplies from the pharmacy. The bullet was still inside. 2 days now. She could feel the infection spreading, could smell it in the wound. That sweet, sick smell she knew from the clinic. He needed surgery. He was going to die without it. There's a clinic. He'd woken up. She was standing outside the car, stretching her legs, when she heard him speak. What? A clinic. About an hour from here, off the grid. A doctor who owes me a favor. How do you know where we are? I saw the exit sign. She stared at him. He was gray-faced, sweating, barely conscious, and he'd seen an exit sign. Where is this clinic? He gave her directions. The clinic was a farmhouse. No sign, no markings, nothing to indicate what it was. Just a white house at the end of a dirt road, a red barn in the back, a woman standing on the porch. She was small and gray-haired, and she held a shotgun. Who are you? Nadia stopped the car. He said you'd help. The woman looked past her, at Marcus in the passenger seat. Marcus Chen? Yes. A pause. The shotgun lowered. Bring him inside. The doctor's name was Ruth. She'd been a surgeon 40 years ago. Army. She'd seen worse than this. Bullets lodged against the intestine, she said, examining the wound. I can get it out, but it's risky. He's lost too much blood. Can you do a transfusion? Do you know his blood type? Nadia looked at Marcus. He was unconscious on the table, his face slack, his breathing shallow. No, Ruth sighed. I have O negative, universal donor. It's not ideal, but it's what we've got. Do it. Ruth worked quickly. Nadia helped where she could, handing instruments, holding gauze, monitoring the blood transfusion. The farmhouse had been converted into a functioning operating room, complete with sterilization equipment and monitors. You've done this before, Nadia said. Many times. Here? Here and other places. People find me when they can't go anywhere else. How did Marcus find you? Ruth didn't look up from her work. He saved my daughter's life 15 years ago. She was in trouble. Bad trouble. He made it go away. What happened to her? Something I don't talk about. Nadia was quiet after that. The surgery took 4 hours. Nadia sat in the kitchen, drinking coffee that had gone cold hours ago. Outside, the sun moved across the sky. Shadows lengthened. A clock on the wall ticked off the seconds. At 5:47 p.m., Ruth emerged. He's alive! Nadia's hands shook. The coffee cup rattled against the table. Will he make it? Ask me tomorrow. She slept on a cot beside his bed. The room was small and clean. White walls, white sheets, the smell of antiseptic. Medical equipment beeped softly in the corner. Ruth checked on them every hour. At 2 a.m., he opened his eyes. Nadia. She was awake instantly. I'm here. He found her hand, held it. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I mean it. She looked at him, his face in the dim light, the shadows under his eyes, the bandages wrapped around his torso. Just don't die. I'll try. 3 days passed. Marcus grew stronger. He sat up on the second day, walked on the third. His color returned, his voice steadied, the fever stayed away. Nadia stayed with him. She called the clinic, told them her mother was sick. She needed time. They were understanding. They always were. She hated lying to them, but she didn't see another way. Ruth brought them food. Simple meals, eggs and toast, soup and bread. She checked Marcus's wound twice a day, changed the dressings, monitored his temperature. You're lucky, she told him on the second day. Another hour and you would have been dead. I know. She saved your life. More than once. Marcus looked at Nadia. She was standing by the window, watching the empty road. I know. On the third night they talked. Marcus was sitting up in bed, a book open in his lap but unread. Nadia was in the chair beside him, her feet tucked beneath her. Tell me about your company, she said. What do you want to know? Everything. He was quiet for a moment. Then he began. He'd started with nothing. A small loan from a bank that didn't believe in him. A warehouse in a bad part of town. 3 employees who worked for promises instead of paychecks. 20 years ago. Now the company employed thousands. Shipping, real estate, technology. He'd diversified slowly, carefully, building something that couldn't be knocked down by a single failure. And Vance? Alexander and I started together. Same business school, same dreams. We were partners for 3 years, until we weren't. What happened? He wanted to cut corners. Make money fast, worry about consequences later. I didn't. So you split. We split. He went his way, I went mine. For 15 years, that was enough. Then it wasn't. Why? Marcus set down the book. Because I succeeded where he failed, and he couldn't live with that. On the 4th day, a car arrived. It was black, unmarked. 2 men got out. Ruth met them at the door, shotgun in hand. Nadia watched from the window, her heart pounding. One of the men held up his hands, said something she couldn't hear. Ruth lowered the shotgun, let them inside. Mr. Chen. The man who spoke was tall, bald, dressed in a dark suit. His voice was quiet and precise. James. Marcus was sitting in a chair by the window. He looked tired but alert. You're late. We had complications. I noticed. James glanced at Nadia. Who is this? She saved my life. I see. A pause. We need to move. The location is secure, but not indefinitely. I know. Marcus stood, slowly, carefully. Give me a moment. James nodded. He and the other man stepped outside. This is it. They stood in the kitchen. Ruth had retreated to the barn, giving them space. The morning light fell through the window, catching the dust motes floating in the air. Yes. Where will you go? I can't tell you that. She nodded. She'd expected it. Will you come back? He was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. That's not an answer. No, it isn't. She looked at him. The man she'd found bleeding on the roadside 6 days ago. The man she'd saved, hidden, protected. The man she'd run with through the rain. I don't regret it, she said. Any of it. Neither do I. He reached into his pocket. Pulled out a card, plain white, no markings, just a phone number printed in black. If you ever need anything at all. She took it. The card was warm from his body heat. Goodbye, Marcus. Goodbye, Nadia. He paused at the door, looked back at her. I will come back, I promise. Then he was gone. He walked out the door. She watched from the window, watched him cross the yard, get into the car, disappear down the dirt road. The dust settled. She stood there for a long time. Ruth found her an hour later, still at the window, still watching the empty road. You should eat something. I'm not hungry. I didn't ask if you were hungry. Ruth set a plate on the table. Eggs and toast. Simple. Warm. Nadia sat down, picked up a fork, put it down again. How long have you known him? 20 years. He was different then. Younger. Hungrier. He came to me once, a long time ago. Similar situation. I helped him. He never forgot it. What happened? He built an empire, and now someone's trying to take it from him. Vance. Ruth's eyes sharpened. He told you. Some of it. Then you know more than you should. Ruth sat down across from her. You need to go back to your life, Nadia. Forget this happened. Forget you met him. I don't think I can do that. No. Ruth's voice was soft. I didn't think so. Ruth drove her back to her cottage the next morning. They didn't speak much. The radio played static and old country songs. The landscape scrolled past, fields and forests and small towns with empty main streets. At the edge of her driveway, Ruth stopped the car. This is as far as I go. I understand. If you need anything, I know where to find you. Ruth nodded. Take care of yourself, Nadia Chen. You too. She got out of the car, watched Ruth drive away. Then she turned and looked at her cottage. The next morning, Nadia drove home. Her cottage was a crime scene. Yellow tape across the driveway, police cars parked on the lawn, an officer standing by the front door, clipboard in hand. She pulled over, got out. The officer approached. "Ma'am, is this your residence?" "Yes. I'm going to need to ask you some questions." She told them nothing. She didn't know the man. She'd never seen him before. She'd been visiting a friend, been gone for days. She had no idea what had happened. They didn't believe her, but they couldn't prove otherwise. The investigation lasted 6 weeks. Detectives came to her house, asked the same questions in different ways. She gave the same answers. She didn't know the man. She hadn't seen anything. She'd been visiting a friend. They searched her cottage, found nothing. She'd cleaned it thoroughly before she left. Ruth had given her bleach and instructions. They searched her car, found nothing. The blood had been cleaned, the mud washed away. They searched her life, found a nurse with a steady job, a quiet existence, no enemies, and no secrets. Eventually, they stopped, searching. The clinic welcomed her back. Her co-workers asked questions at first. Where had she been? Was she okay? Had something happened? She told them her mother had been sick. They believed her because they wanted to. She took vitals, filed charts, smiled at patients. Her hands didn't shake anymore. 3 weeks passed. The investigation went cold. The police stopped coming by. The yellow tape came down. Her neighbors stopped asking questions. Life went back to normal, almost. Every night she dreamed of rain. Every morning she woke with his name on her lips. 6 months later, the seasons had changed. Summer had burned into autumn, and autumn was fading into winter. The trees outside her window had gone from green to gold to bare, their branches stark against the gray sky. Nadia was closing up the clinic when her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. No words, just a link. She clicked it. A news article? Business section. Marcus Chen returns to lead Chen Industries after hostile takeover attempt fails. She sat down at her desk. Read the article. Then read it again. The details. The court battles. The evidence that had emerged, implicating Alexander Vance in fraud, embezzlement, attempted murder. Vance had been arrested 3 weeks ago. He was facing 40 years. At the bottom of the article, a photo. Marcus standing at a podium, addressing reporters. He looked different, rested, healthy, alive. His suit was pressed, his jaw was set, his eyes were the same. She didn't respond to the text. She didn't know what to say. What was there to say? He was back. He was safe. He'd won. That was enough. 2 weeks later, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a box. Inside the box, a set of keys. Car keys, expensive, with a logo she didn't recognize. She walked outside. A car sat in her driveway. Black, sleek. A car she'd never touched, let alone owned. On the windshield, a note. For the next time someone needs help. She kept the car. She kept the keys. She kept the card with the phone number, tucked in her wallet, never used. A year passed. She got promoted at the clinic, head nurse with a raise and better hours. She fixed the porch, hired a local contractor, watched him work for 3 days until it was level and solid. She replaced the windshield wipers. She adopted a cat, a gray tabby with one ear missing, found in the parking lot behind the pharmacy. The cottage felt different now. She'd painted the bedroom, the room where he'd bled, where she'd stitched him up, where she'd watched him die and come back. The walls were white now, clean and fresh. The bed had new sheets. Sometimes at night she could still smell the blood. She read about him in the papers. Business pages, mostly. Chen Industries was expanding. New contracts, new partnerships, new buildings rising in cities she'd never visited. He never called. She never called either. The card stayed in her wallet, the phone number undialed. Life went on. Then, on a Tuesday in October, she got another text. Same unknown number. Are you free for dinner? She stared at the screen. Her heart did something complicated in her chest. She typed back. When? The restaurant was in the city, 4 hours north. She drove the car he'd sent her, felt its engine hum beneath her hands. Private room, white tablecloths, Candles. He was already there when she arrived, standing by the window, looking out at the skyline. He turned when she entered. "You came. You asked." He smiled. It changed his face, softened it. "You look good, Nadia. You look alive. Thanks to you." They sat. They ordered. They talked. He told her about the last year, the legal battles that had dragged on for months, the restructuring that had nearly torn the company apart, the sleepless nights and endless meetings, the lawyers and accountants and board members who wanted to know everything. Vance had people everywhere, he said. Police, government, even inside my own company. It took months to root them out. How did you do it? One at a time, carefully. And now? Now it's over. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison. She picked up her wine glass, set it down without drinking. You could have told me, all those months. You could have let me know you were okay. I know. Why didn't you? He was quiet for a moment. Because I wasn't sure I'd make it. And if I didn't want you waiting for someone who was never coming back. She stared at him. That wasn't your choice to make. No, it wasn't. She told him about the clinic, the promotion, the cat, the nights she'd spent staring at the ceiling, wondering where he was, whether he was alive, whether she'd ever see him again. The food came. They barely touched it. I thought about you, he said. Every day. I thought about you too. But you didn't call. Neither did you. He looked at her, those dark eyes steady as ever. I didn't know what to say. Neither did I. The dinner ended. He walked her to her car, the one he'd sent. She'd driven it here, 4 hours each way. Will I see you again? Do you want to? Yes. He stepped closer. Close enough that she could feel his warmth, smell his cologne. Then yes. He kissed her. Soft. Brief. A question. She answered. They stood there in the parking lot, the city lights glittering around them, the night air cool on their skin. This is crazy, she said. Yes. I'm a nurse from a small town. You run an empire. I know. It won't work. It might. She looked at him. The man she'd saved. The man who'd come back. Okay. 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 Let's try. The second year was harder. He flew to see her when he could. She drove to see him when he couldn't. They met in hotel rooms and restaurants and once in the back of a private plane. The distance was difficult. The difference was harder. His world was boardrooms and private jets and security details. Men in suits who spoke in code, women with tablets who tracked his every appointment. He moved through spaces she'd never enter, made decisions that affected thousands of lives. Hers was blood draws and insurance forms and 12-hour shifts, patients who couldn't pay their bills, families who couldn't face bad news. She went home to a cottage in the woods and a cat who didn't care how her day had gone. They didn't speak the same language. They didn't live in the same world. But they tried. The visits grew shorter. The calls grew fewer. He canceled a trip in November. Board meeting couldn't be helped. She missed a call in December. Emergency at the clinic. A patient coding in the hallway. They apologized. They promised to do better. The distance stayed. They fought. About time. About priorities. About a life that didn't seem to have room for both of them. I can't keep doing this, she said. Flying to see you for 2 hours. Driving 4 hours for dinner. I have a life here, Marcus, a job. Responsibilities. I know. Do you? Because it doesn't feel like it. What do you want me to do? I don't know. Something. Anything. He was quiet. She hated when he was quiet. It meant he was thinking, calculating, running the numbers on a problem he couldn't solve. I'll try harder, he said finally. That's not an answer. I know. One night after a canceled trip and a missed call and 3 days of silence, she called him. This isn't working. He was quiet for a moment. I know. We're kidding ourselves. Maybe. So what do we do? Another pause. Longer this time. I don't know. A week passed. then 2. She threw herself into work. She picked up extra shifts. She adopted another cat, a black one this time, found shivering behind the dumpster at the grocery store. She didn't call. Neither did he. Then, on a Sunday in March, a car pulled up to her cottage. She was on the porch, drinking coffee, watching the sunrise. The car was unfamiliar, a rental maybe, or a loaner, not one of his usual fleet. The door opened. Marcus got out. He was alone. No driver. No security. Just him. He walked up the steps and stopped at the edge of the porch. "I quit." She stared at him. "What?" "The company. I quit. Stepped down as CEO. James is taking over. You can't just—" "I did." She set down her coffee. "Why?" He looked at her. Those same dark eyes. The same face she'd seen bleeding in her spare bedroom 3 years ago. "Because none of it matters. Not without you." She didn't say anything. She stood up, crossed the porch, stopped in front of him. "You're crazy." "Yes. You just gave up everything." "No, I didn't." She looked at him. Really looked at him. Then she kissed him. They were married 6 months later. Small ceremony. Ruth officiated. The farmer who'd picked them up on that rainy highway served as a witness. They held it at the cottage. 2 years after that, they stood on the porch of the cottage. Her cottage. Their cottage now. The paint was fresh. He'd hired someone, she'd fired them and done it herself. The porch was level. The windshield wipers had been replaced twice. A car pulled up the driveway. James, bald and precise as ever, stepped out. "Mr. Chen, Mrs. Chen, your flight leaves in 2 hours." Marcus looked at Nadia. She looked back. "Ready?" "Ready." They walked to the car. Behind them, the cottage sat quiet in the morning light. The cats watched from the window, 3 of them now, a small family. Nadia paused, looked back one more time. She'd found him bleeding on the roadside 5 years ago. She'd saved his life. He'd changed hers. She didn't regret it. Any of it. The car door closed. The engine started. They drove away. The road stretched ahead, empty and open. Nadia watched it unfold through the window, the trees blurring past, the sky vast and blue above. Marcus took her hand. She held it. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Mr. Douglas Tales, where powerful stories unfold one moment at a time.